Thanks to all the witnesses for coming today. I found it funny who I was asked to introduce, because anyone that knows me here knows I absolutely love shoes. So it's really my honor to introduce Haley Pavone, and she is represented by, he'll kill me if I don't say it, Rep. Carvajal. So thank you for being here today. We're joined by Haley Pavone, the founder of Pashion Footwear, a company reimagining the future of shoes with the world's first convertible high heel. I need to look at those. Many of you watching may know Haley from her appearance on ABC's Shark Tank, where she stood her ground against the sharks and fought hard to best position her business. She walked away without making a deal. That's because she knew what was right for her business, and that is why she is here today. Because of her hard work and vision, Pashion Footwear is now a thriving multi-million-dollar business selling her shoes. Passions all around the world. Haley, thank you so much for using your voice and staying true to your vision, and you are now recognized.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Speaker Jeffries, Chairwoman Velasquez, and members of the committee, thank you for inviting me to testify today. I am a lifelong California resident and the founder and CEO of Pashion Footwear, which is a registered Delaware C corporation with 12 employees, all of whom are U.S. citizens, and actually 3 of whom are joining me today from New York and Pennsylvania. I invented my company's core technology, fully convertible high heels that turn into flats. I'm happy to give demos later, when I was a 20-year-old junior in college. It took 2.5 years of R&D and supply chain sourcing to make our design possible, which is an innovative tech that requires precise injection molding in conjunction with craftsman footwear assembly. These 2 manufacturing methods currently only coexist at any kind of scale in China. We launched the brand into the market in June of 2019 and have since navigated the first trade war, the pandemic, the supply chain crisis, #1, and the recession. Despite these obstacles, I've been able to build out my American dream. Today, Pashion is a profitable growth business. We grew top line 85% in 2024 to $9 million in gross revenues and achieved a 19% EBITDA profit, which is nearly double the industry average for footwear. I cannot emphasize enough that the current breadth and speed of policy changes stands to absolutely gut everything that I've worked so hard to build seemingly overnight. The same is true for thousands of other small businesses like mine. I can certainly appreciate the administration's desire to onshore more of our manufacturing. However, the simple fact is that supply chains do not grow overnight. Speaking to my own industry, building out a high-end technical footwear manufacturing facility in the US would take 3 to 5 years and tens of millions of dollars that a company my size simply does not have. That leaves us with the option of trying to move from China to another country. However, not all countries are created equal when it comes to the facilities, materials, and labor at their disposal. In Vietnam, we would be forced to adjust our minimum order quantity from 200 pairs per style to 3,000 pairs, representing a massive budget increase on every single purchase order. In Brazilian factories, the equipment they have is not the same as in China, making our $400,000 worth of custom molds and tooling incompatible. We'd have to abandon those assets and then pay to reopen them in Brazil to begin production there. I could regale you with similar stories from other countries, but at the end of the day, all are a moot point. Industries like footwear have a 4 to 6 month lead time on shipments. In the extremely optimistic scenario that I'm able to source a new non-Chinese supply chain within the next few months, that batch of supply wouldn't even come into effect until spring of 2026, meaning I will suffer paying the tariffs for 9 months even while actively trying to adapt to these new policies. To help demonstrate the impact of these tariffs, I'd love to talk to you about the shoes that I'm wearing. This pair of shoes, which you'll just have to imagine for now, I'll show you later, but this pair of shoes has a product cost of $38.77, and we have historically sold it to customers for $195. Once we include all product costs, such as freight, warehousing, and merchant fees, as well as accounting for our operating costs, which is inclusive of our salaries, marketing budget, our U.S. contractor retainers, product development, and general overhead, we are left behind with a total net profit for this shoe sale of $19.76. However, with the implementation of these new tariffs, as well as last Friday's elimination of the de minimis value under Section 321, this math has now been flipped on its head. Since these shoes are textile fabric, they already recognize a base duty rate of 37.5%. Then we add on the 7.5 301 tariff that was established in the first Trump administration, followed by the current 145% surcharge tariff for a grand total of 190% due at import on these shoes. Wow. My business has now overnight gone from profiting $19.76 on this shoe to losing $45.95 on every single sale of this style. Small businesses right now are faced with a difficult question. What comes first? Executing a complex supply chain move or the bank account hitting zero? I'm now incredibly motivated to move my supply chain, but there is simply nowhere to go, and certainly not this quickly. I can leave my price point the same to keep sales steady, but I'll slowly bleed out with each and every transaction. As a small business without a huge amount of cash reserves to fall back on, the amount of time that we can afford to steadily lose money is measured in weeks, possibly months, but certainly not years. This approach would lead to certain layoffs and rapid, unjust insolvency. The other option is to pass this tariff cost onto the U.S. consumer, adding the $63.73 in tariffs onto the price. Not only is this bad for the American consumer, but it also creates uncertainty for the business. Will a customer who's used to buying a product for $195 still buy it for $258.73? Unfortunately, that is a question I will quickly be learning the answer to, as we've had no choice but to immediately add a tariff tax line item spelled out plain as day to every single product we sell as a means of survival. Every day that these trade policies continue, it means the death of more American dreams. This is not a short-term pain. This is the destruction of livelihoods, both for entrepreneurs and those they employ. This is supply shortages. This is price hikes to the U.S. consumer. As the backbone of the U.S. economy, small business owners are calling on you, our elected officials, for consideration, relief, and support. We ask that you fight for us with the same passion that we fight for our businesses, our employees, and our customers every single day. This really is not a matter of Republican or Democrat in my eyes. This is a matter of economics, and this math, quite simply, does not add up. Thank you for your time.
Haley, I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into how tariffs are affecting your business, and specifically interested in how the expected impact affected your strategy for putting in orders for the rest of the year. In the face of all this uncertainty, are you expecting to maintain the same volume?
Yes, so, I mean, it's a very interesting question, especially when we talk about inventory, because essentially we just had our cost of goods skyrocket overnight, which of course is the fundamental building block of how we put together a budget. So, as I mentioned, footwear has a really long lead time. We're already theoretically supposed to be submitting our holiday season order in the next 2 weeks. A big part of the holiday and winter season for us is knee-high leather boots. It's our most expensive product. It costs $50 to make because, again, we use very sophisticated labor. I think there's a huge misconception about the quality of labor in China. It is fantastic. We have mechanical engineers and trained craftsmen working on this product every single day, and frankly, we just don't have a competitive market for a manufacturing workforce here at that caliber. But anyway, this is a $50 product, or at least it was. Right now, that shoe is subject to a 190% tariff. So that goes from a $50 line item on my purchase order to nearly $150. How am I supposed to put a budget together, especially with the turbulence in this environment? For all I know, the tariff could go up to 200% tomorrow or drop down to 40%. So without those fundamental building blocks in place, I truly have no idea how to have an inventory strategy. I'm actually joined today by Gabrielle Cohen, my inventory manager, and we've been banging our heads against the wall about this for the last month. In the short term, what I can tell you is our summer containers have already arrived near our warehouse, but we haven't accepted them yet. I'm honestly not confident it's a good financial decision for me to take on the final import costs. So it's just in limbo. So we might be seeing impacts as early as the next month or so. I cut my fall order down by 70%. You know, our business was on track to more than double this year. We were forecasting $15 million in top line and over $2 million in EBITDA. I can only support that if I have shoes to sell. If I don't have shoes to sell, I cannot hit those figures. So that purchase order for this fall should have been $1 million. That is only $300,000. So it's now going to be irreversibly, it's impossible for me to hit my original projection, because once that order is placed, it cannot be undone. That order is already 60% produced. So even if this goes away tomorrow, my year through the fall is shot.
Pretty incredible. And I think you touched on this a little bit, just as a follow-up. We know that the profits of a lot of our small businesses depend on selling a certain volume, to your point of how many you're going to get. If you're lowering volume, then how does that impact your bottom line?
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's a basic unit economics question. And to your point, there's two sides of A, the volume we can bring in, also the volume we can sell, which is where the pricing piece is very concerning. All of us up here that run businesses based on product are familiar with the math of we have to sell X number of units, and the profit from those units covers our basic operating costs, our salaries, everything that we have to cover just as an operation. That's what we get to break even. Then every unit above that that we sell each month is the profit, but to your point, the profit is not money that's like just floating around in a bank account somewhere. It's creating U.S. jobs, and it's allowing us to buy more product to keep growing the business and reinvesting in that growth, eventually letting us post a profit. I'm actually very proud with our EBITDA last year. 2024 was the first year I paid a corporate income tax. Weird thing to be excited about, but after 8 years, I was proud. I'm a proud taxpayer now. But I won't be this year. So congratulations to the administration on that. But anyway, I mean, when we look at all of this, when we start thinking about selling fewer units, it's not just that profit that's getting gutted, i.e. the amount contributing to new jobs and more growth. We're concerned it's actually going to start dropping below that critical break-even mass, and that's where layoffs come into effect. That's where we start having to just cease operations in general, and as I discussed earlier, unjust insolvency. Not to mention, pivoting from your question slightly, if I may, I believe Ms. Russell mentioned this. You know, businesses are looking at this situation, trying to figure out how we're not going to go bankrupt, and we can't even rely on the SBA for support at this point. I had a term sheet from a bank for a $5 million SBA 7A loan in March. Fully vetted, took 2.5 months to due diligence. It was going to refinance all the bad, sharky debt we took on to survive the pandemic. So excited to finally be able to qualify and get out of that hole, and also give us more working capital on hand than we've ever had before. Because of the administration's executive orders, you now cannot qualify for SBA 7A unless you can prove 100% U.S. shareholders in a C corporation. In the past, you just had to prove beneficial owners above 20%, which is only myself in this case. Because I have a 1.7% equity interest from a Mexican investor, the deal was pulled. So I can't even get small business loan funding to try to survive this interesting period in time. So it really does feel like an attack on profits and just an attack on operations in general.
Thank you so much.